using autofocusing through this whole video so you can observe how it performs on this camera. Feel free to look at the timeline. You'll see different sections there, so you can skip to the part that you are interested in. You can also look in the description. I'll put the different time frames there as well. Our resolution is 4K 24 frames, so you can see the quality that is produced by this camera in 4K. You know, it takes 6K image and it downsizes it, downsamples it to 4K, so we should be getting sharp, colorful images right now. So let's start with the positives. The most obvious elephant in the room is, of course, the 24 megapixel full frame sensor. 24 megapixels is plenty for photography. You have a lot of cropping room, and it's also good for videography in this specific case, because there's something special going on with this camera. Now, it can shoot 4K 24 and 30 frames, but it's not just any 4K. The camera is taking a 6K image and shrinking it down to 4K to give you a high quality 4K file. So the camera has IBIS inside, which is internal body stabilization. And right now I'm holding it with my hand, so we're like vlogging, right? And it would be very shaky if there was no stabilization at all. But as you can see, we gotta keep some distance, but I'm holding it.
6 feet.
A7 III has a Z battery, which is a new introduction for this line of cameras. A7 II had the smaller battery, which wasn't enough, let's put it that way. Z battery changes everything. Now it's enough, you don't have to worry about, am I running low or not? You can go on a hiking trip, for example, like we're doing right now, and I'm just keeping an eye that it's, you know, not running out completely, but no worries, I know it's gonna handle it. This camera has a crop mode, meaning that with a simple press of a button, you can crop in and turn this camera into an APS-C camera, meaning not using the whole sensor, but only a portion of it, which would have a 1.5 crop. So right now, this is a 24mm lens, and when I flip to the crop mode, this is what the crop mode looks like. So basically 24mm turns into 36mm, and you obviously see the difference. And now this is back to 24mm, so you can see that's a pretty substantial difference. And if we had a longer focal length, that would have an even bigger impact. Autofocusing performance. I think when this camera came out, it was a really big deal. Right now, Sony has a better version in their newer cameras like A6600, A7R4, A9, but this autofocusing works great. So right now the aperture is at about f1.4, 1.8, 2.0, so it's pretty shallow depth of field. So if the camera will miss focus, like it's not gonna catch my face in focus or something, you will definitely see it, because I'm sure there's a lot of blurriness going on right now, right? So if anything, you'll see right away. And of course, throughout the video, you can observe how autofocusing performs. Bluetooth, I'm using the Sony wireless grip / tripod handle right now, and very easy. You just pair it to the camera once, and that's it. No wires attached. Bluetooth works great. Even if you turn off the camera and then you turn it back on, it still repairs itself. Very easy. I use Wi-Fi to connect to the phone. I connect to the FeiyuTech app, which connects to the gimbal, and that's how I use Wi-Fi. Haven't tried anything else yet, but it works. The camera has built-in microphone, which is great, and I think it is stereo, because there's one hole here, one hole on the other side of the eye viewfinder. So it's probably good quality, not sure. There's definitely no like wind muffin or anything like that, so if there's high winds, then you will hear it. Right now there's no wind here, so we don't hear it. The sound should be good. and I would assume it should be picking up like ambient noise really well, like the birds chirping or this bridge humming. We have dual card slots. Now they are not of the same speed, so if you're doing like raw photography, for example, obviously the slower one will lag behind, so your general performance may decrease. Even though the menu is complicated, we do have a somewhat new addition where the last tab is called Star. It's like a star menu where you can customize. You can basically take different things from the general menu and just throw it there, so it's like kind of your shortcut page, so to say. Definitely useful is if there are certain things that you constantly use, just put it there and forget it. You know where it's gonna be, and you can use the same technique on other Sony cameras that have star menu. This camera comes with a little speaker. I think it's really cool, and all cameras should have it. I mean, imagine just making some kind of video and you want to check how the audio came out, or you just want to see if the audio came out at all, if you can hear anything. And you don't have your headphones, or you don't have a headphone plug in the camera. How do you do it? If the camera has the speaker, you can check it right away. And now it's not a high quality speaker, it's not stereo, it's just one speaker, but you can adjust the volume so you can make it louder or quieter. I think it's really good, and again, all cameras should have that. Custom buttons. There are a lot of them on the body. I have about 6 of them programmed to specific functions, and let's say if you're a photographer, videographer who does what they do a lot, you get used to certain things and you know exactly what you need from a camera, and you have so many buttons to assign those functions to, so you can quickly jump to a certain, let's say, way that a camera would be operating with a flip of a button, just like that. Picture profiles. This camera has it, so if you are into color editing, good news. Microphone and audio ports, they are here. That's great news. If you need to listen to what you're recording, no problem. And of course the microphone port, it's very important if you want to record a high quality sound like I'm doing right now with this lavalier microphone. Memory profile. So on your main dial wheel you have 2 of them, but I would say it's more than 2. Let's say if you're using the movie profile, you can do whatever settings there, it's gonna remember it, and quickly switch between those depending on what you need, like frame rate or certain other options. And you use them too, right? Mm-hmm. On an A6600.
You have 1 and 2 on the dial, but you could also do by memory, like off the SD card. So if you format the SD card, you lose those settings. So you have 1 and 2 on the dial, and then I think you have 4 more on memory. Wow. That you can program.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Plus the movie dial.
Yeah. Overheating is not an issue at all. One small exception. The other day I was using the 24mm G Master, and for some reason that lens on this camera, like you can feel it gets warm right where the mount is. I'm not sure what it is associated with, but right now I have the Tamron 70-28, nothing like that, no problems. It's barely warm, I guess, and I'm still shooting 4K 24 frames. Now, because this is a full frame, modern, advanced sensor, we do get very good performance in very bright scenarios, as well as improved low light. Very much improved. In fact, if you're shooting video, I would highly suggest to select 4K 24 frames. You will get much cleaner results in low light situations. High autofocusing for humans and animals. Photographers, rejoice. You will love this feature. This full frame camera is compact. I mean, the dimensions are similar to some older Nikon and Canon DSLR APS-C crop cameras. So that says a lot. Very compact package, but don't confuse it with lightweight and pocket friendly. Not at all. It is a full frame camera, so it is a little bit heavy, and if you go on a hike trail, you would want to carry like a belt with you, so it's easier to have it on your body. 4K 24 frames per second, has no crop, so you get the full image, as well as 120 frames per second at 1080p resolution, no crop as well, which is great. And let's see some slow motion examples. Let's do some negatives, and there are plenty. Even though this camera shoots 4K, it is only up to 30 frames. We don't have 60 or anything higher than that. At least not yet. Slow motion.
Slow motion?
Only goes to 120 frames at 1080p, but that's it, nothing higher, which is not bad, but we would like something like 240 if you do any tricks. Also, there is no 10-bit, so we're only getting 8-bit video. No real-time eye autofocusing in video. Is it a problem? Not in general, but if you have a shallow depth of field, like let's say we're about at 1.6 aperture or so, so if the camera is misfocusing, like it's focusing on my nose or the ears instead of the eyes, like it would be visible depending on the situation. So maybe if I get closer, and if the camera was focusing like on the nose, you know, that would be a problem. It would be visible, but I hope it's focusing on the eyes. So while the camera has IBIS, which is internal body image stabilization, which is great to have, it is not really that good when you're doing video. So this video that you're seeing right now is pretty shaky. I'm holding the camera with a hand, and it's not doing that great of a job. Exposure compensation wheel has no lock button, meaning that you can turn it by accident without knowing, and it can ruin your day. So you constantly have to keep checking if it is set to 0 or a specific setting that you wanted. 1080p quality is good. It is a full frame sensor, but a camera like Sony A7S1, S2 have better 1080p quality, so something to note. The camera has a mini HDMI port on the side, so it's not full size, which is definitely a risk. For those of you who have Sony cameras, you know that the menus are complicated and hard to navigate. And to make things even worse, Sony doesn't have a good touchscreen that you can use for browsing the menu. The screen is not fully articulating. You can only do low shots or high shots, but it doesn't flip out sideways, or you cannot do a selfie. Like, let's say I'm filming myself right now, so I don't see if it's positioned properly. There are so many buttons on this camera that you can easily press some of them by accident, but the one that I constantly press is right by your thumb when you hold the camera, and it's called AEL. I reprogrammed it to show zebras on and off, so it's not as big of a deal if it is turned on by accident, but I think it happens every time that I do a shoot or photography. Weather sealing. So this camera is resistant to, let's say, moisture and slight drizzle, but I would not leave it in the rain. I would not take it with me, you know, doing some kind of water sports or just doing some photography in the water. A friend of mine actually, a wave came over him and the camera got wet. The screen doesn't work, EVF doesn't work. Now that's an A7R III This is a A7III, but I think they have very similar weather sealing, so I would not risk it. But I do feel confident that if it drizzles slightly, if let's say there's a small splash of like a sprinkle of water, I wouldn't worry too much. High humidity, same thing, but nothing heavy at all. I would not suggest risking it. These cameras are not waterproof, just drizzle resistant, okay? Sony A7III has a video recording limit of 30 minutes. So if you're doing interviews, reception, anything long, you have to keep that in mind. It's a big problem. A6600.
They did away with the recording limit because it's a big problem. If you don't think about, oh, I'm going over 30 minutes, you're gonna miss your footage, and it's already happened to me before.
A6400, A6100, no more recording limit. And I would assume that new cameras coming out like A7S3 and so on, they're probably not gonna have it anymore. So, but it's still in this one. Maybe with an update, we'll see. We do have the touch screen here, but it is only for
focusing, really. You can't do anything else really with the touch screen.
Seriously, you can't browse the menu.
No, that would be nice, but it's mostly just for focusing on a certain point.
No menu, it'll be so easy. What's so hard to implement here?
I don't know. They're all like that, though. All of the Sonys.
Yeah, at least for now.
Yeah.
Hopefully in an update, maybe they'll do something, but I don't know. But definitely newer cameras, they have to do something about it. Now, Sony A7III is a compact full-frame camera, but it weighs 650 grams, which is some weight.
Yeah, but the A6600 is only about 500 grams. So you gotta take that into consideration when you're picking your camera. Do you want something big and heavy, or do you want something a little bit more compact? But there's a lot of differences between the cameras, so don't just go by weight.
Yeah, that is true. So we do have some extra weight on this full-frame camera. The price, $2,000. You can find deals for $1,800, and as time goes on, it's gonna be lower and lower. It's still a lot of money. Horizontal bending is a big issue. When you are recording indoors with certain types of LED lights, you may notice horizontal dark lines going down across your screen, and it will ruin many of your shots. You can decrease that effect by changing the shutter speed. You can also change the frame rate, again, to change the shutter speed and hopefully eliminate it, or at least get it to a point where it is barely or not even visible in video. But I don't know how to eliminate it completely, so obviously changing LED lights to, let's say, ones that have higher frequency will help. Rolling shutter is another issue. This happens when, let's say, if you're recording an airplane propeller, or let's say if you're doing a car shoot where a car is moving and you can see the rims spinning, you can see that problem there as well, or pretty much anything spinning, moving, or even if you have straight lines and you're moving the camera fast, or if you're in a car, you will see that the straight lines will become bent. It's a problem, that's how it is, and we just gotta deal with it. All right, so what's the verdict? Full frame sensor, compact body, we have IBIS stabilization, good battery life, great autofocusing, superb 4K 24 FPS. A lot of big positives. However, it's pricing. You gotta be gentle with it when you're doing videos in 24 frames 4K, because if you start moving around, it's gonna feel like jello. Weather sealing is not that great at all. So you do need to watch if it's gonna rain or if you're in the water, anything like that. Do be very careful. No 4K 60 frames and no flip out screen or selfie screen. So that's a lot of negatives, but the camera does find a lot of professionals and enthusiasts who love it, because not everyone needs 4K 60, and 24 frames per second is very popular in the cinematography field. This is very good camera and a lot of you will be happy with it.